and welcome to Codec Moments. I'm your host, Ali, for a change, and joining me as always is Dr. Matthew Holt.
Hello.
Hello. So it's just the two of us. I would say for a change, but back to normal, or maybe not back to normal. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what is normal anymore? None of us know.
True.
It's just all weird.
I'm hosting, and we've got no Andy. Although for a change, we're talking about something that he could be involved with.
Yes. So I think we originally decided we'd do this one together because you've probably guessed we're going to be talking about a racing game. Yep. And then he surprised the hell out of us yesterday morning by sending us a screenshot that he's bought it.
Yep, and the deluxe edition. So he's like, "Oh, I can play it already." And it's like, "Yeah, you've picked up the deluxe edition. It's 3 days early." Yeah. We'll get on to why he's picked that up later on, because there is a reason, and he seems to be enjoying it. Which surprised us. I think we told him basically how well it works on a controller.
Yeah.
And he seems to be cracking on with it. Okay, from what
he does. So it's F1 2020.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably guessed that from the podcast title, just in case you skipped that. We've been talking for a couple of minutes and you've no idea what about. It's, new Formula One game. And, of course, we were going to be in it from the start, weren't we?
Yeah. To be fair, at the minute, it's a little bit like Christmas. I know NASCAR and IndyCar started maybe a month before F1. But, yeah, F1's back. That was back the week before, the weekend before the game was released. Yep. Obviously, we had it a little bit earlier. So then we've got the game as well. And then that's now released and it's just full on now. And I think the F1 season goes to just before Christmas, they keep saying, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what they're aiming for. And we're recording on the 10th of July. And they've announced today 2 more races. So Monza and Sochi have been confirmed.
Mugello.
I thought Mugello was already in there. I thought they've now confirmed Monza.
I thought Monza was the one that was already in. But yeah, whatever.
Well,
we've got
whichever way we look at it, we've got an extra Italian Grand Prix and we've got Russian Grand Prix at Sochi coming later in the year as well. Yeah. So it's steadily getting a longer season. Is that 10 races we've got now?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And it has to be at least 8 to qualify for a championship, which I didn't realise till I was listening to commentary last weekend.
Yeah, so we're definitely in championship. And we've got a game to go alongside it, released at pretty much the same as the launch of the season by absolutely no planning whatsoever. Yeah. And we're not even going to get to race the tracks that the drivers are on.
Well, yeah.
Well, so not all of them anyway.
Yeah, so obviously we've got the original season. So we've got the Vietnam track, Hanoi, which is great. And also... Van der Roon, is it?
I was going to let you tackle the pronunciation. Is it Zandvoort?
Zandvoort, that's it, Zandvoort. Yeah. Which I have... have you ever raced on that in a game before?
Not until this version of F1, no.
So I, on iRacing, that was one of the seasons that was on, and it was in that. So I have raced it a little bit. Don't know if it's the latest scan on iRacing. I'd have to double check that. So I am familiar with it a little bit. But Hanoi is a very interesting track.
It is. You know what? It reminds me of Sochi and Mexico combined.
See, I was thinking more Azerbaijan with a little bit of Canada.
Yeah.
And then maybe a bit of Sochi or something like that. Because it's got the really long straights with a hairpin. And then it's obviously got the really intricate session, which is, I guess, maybe a little bit like Suzuka as well, with the quite quick sweeping corners and things. It's like, we'll have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and just mash it together. It
is. And then concrete barriers at the side. I think that's what makes me think Sochi, just because there's the new style tracks with decent concrete runoffs and the concrete barriers. And that's what I kind of get that feel when I'm in there. I know from a spectator point of view, it'll look completely different, but as you're driving the cars, it's just concrete barriers and straights and turns, isn't it? And you sort of think it's like you notice the difference in the tracks. I know when we go to the older school ones, and I'd almost class Zandvoort in that. Because
gotcha,
you see the area around the track when you're driving it. You see the undulations, you know where the bankings are and all sorts of things. And that is a phenomenal track. I didn't know what I'd think of it, but it's a lot of fun.
It is, and I can imagine it being quite punishing on the drivers going around it, because
Oh,
you don't really get a lot of time to rest. You know, like on Hanoi and Monza and places like that, you've got the massive long straights, so you can for a few seconds as you're tanking down it, and then you have to go again. Whereas Zandvoort, you're just constantly in and out of corners, and
there's something going on. There's a lot of G,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of speed, and it's a really nice track. I know when I think I was doing one of the practice sessions, and I was just happy to do lap after lap after lap.
Yeah.
Getting it right. It just felt like a really nice flowing circuit, even though it's tight and it is twisty.
But it's interesting that this is the first game, I want to say ever, but I'm sure there's something out there where it's not happened before, but the first official game where we've got tracks before the drivers have ever raced on it.
Possibly. I was trying to think, because I've written a review that's up on the site, and I was trying to think when I was writing that, have we ever had an F1 game that's come out before the season started or about the same time as the season started? Definitely not for the last few years.
No.
Back of my mind, I think the Championship edition that came to the PS3 might have been start of the season, but I think that was just a slightly tweaked, updated version of the previous year's PS2 game. So I can't remember if we've been in this situation before. Definitely forgetting the circuits.
And it's very interesting as well, because obviously we've had a pre-release copy, if you like, and a lot of the bump that we get with it as part of the NDA is telling us about different things with the game. And obviously because of the time of the game being released, but then the actual season starting, they have said we need to tweak the cars. There's going to be quite a lot of patching. So I don't want people that are picking it up to get frustrated that they're going to patch it a lot. And there's reasons behind the patches. One is because liveries have changed, sponsors have changed, but also they need to balance out the cars, because I think it's been built on previous years, maybe a little bit of tweaking as of Melbourne when they did or if they did any, or at least when they were in Barcelona doing some testing. What data you can get from that, I don't know, but then they've got to tweak the cars to match the current state.
And one of the new features for this year, isn't it? It's the driver rating as well. They've got to tweak those. So I think if you jumped in and ran a race before anything hit the real life circuits, the predictions will have been well out on how some of the drivers will perform. I mean, you still got up at the top. Interestingly, each time I've run Austria, it always seems to be Verstappen and Bottas in the top two.
Interesting.
Which I think most people would have had the money being on Hamilton. In fairness, both of us last weekend had our money on Hamilton winning.
Yep.
And, no chance there in the end because of everything that happened. But, yeah, that needs addressing. And it's interesting you say the liveries, because, sponsors and things have changed. But Mercedes completely overhauled their entire livery in the week before the Austrian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And that is going to take a while to flow through to the game before they actually put it in there.
And obviously the big one is Williams losing the Rocket sponsor.
Yes.
So they've changing that, and I don't think that's been updated yet in the game.
I can't say for sure because we've had about 4 patches in the last week, so it's difficult.
And one of the things on the pre-NDA that we had was try and avoid the Williams car because the delivery needs to be updated. So I have. So I couldn't tell you if it's been updated because I've just not touched it, just in case I did anything I shouldn't. But yeah, and I guess the biggest new feature to this series is My Team.
Oh, yes.
So for me, it's more of a combination between the Motorsport Manager that you've got an app for and different things, and obviously the F1 game. So you've obviously got your create a team, and then you're managing it, and you're planning your diary for your press events, or if you want to do some training with your teammate or your team, and hiring and firing, and it's all there. It's pretty good. I've not done loads on it, but it's interesting because your car isn't quite there at the start either, which is nice.
Yeah,
depending on the difficulty you put it on.
It is, yeah. If you hit the My Team mode, which I did as the first thing, because it, like I say, big new feature for this year. It is a career mode.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the actual career mode, except, you are running your own team. There's a few extra bits. It's not overly complicated, and you don't lose a huge amount if you just do the career, but it's an added depth. And you're getting in, picking your colour schemes, picking your logos, tweaking things, changing stuff until you get it right. And it's a nice immersion rather than just going, oh, yep, you're the hottest new driver in the world joining Formula One for the first time. It makes a little bit of a difference because you own a driver as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 22 cars on the grid. So there's that to change as well, because it doesn't knock another team out to accommodate this. It just says, right, we're going to have another one. Yeah. You're in an absolute basic spec car that you have to develop all the way through. Interestingly, though, at the start of my season, even I think you get like 2 or 3 bits of the car you can develop pre-season starting. But even then, I was still above the Williams, which I thought was a bit embarrassing.
Yeah. It is really good, though. The one thing that I would like, and this is just completely off the cuff, but it would have been nice to pick the type of wheel that you have on your car. But that's just me. I would like to,
in a customization update.
Yeah, but just like, it doesn't even have to change it too much. But some people prefer that. I hate it. But the Williams one where they've got the screen separate.
Oh yeah.
To the actual wheel, but if you could kind of go, which one of these wheels would you like?
Do you want your integrated display or your separate display, or just basics like that? But it could be quite interesting.
Everything else is great. Obviously, you create your own driver, you create your own livery to an extent. You create your own logo and the colours, and it's just lots of fun. It's nice to add it rather than just going into a career mode, like you say, you're some new hotshot that's just joined and whatnot. I think it'd be nice if there was an option to start it in F2, maybe.
Oh, start a team up in F2, because your career you can do.
Yeah.
So if you do the career mode, you can do like last year. You can do like a snapshot F2 season, which does 3 races, and your offers are dependent on how you perform in those races.
Yeah.
Or you can do a full F2 season and progress up, or you can just jump straight into F1. So you've got quite a choice. But it looks like they removed that whole rivalry thing from last year, which was an interesting idea in F2, but ended up being a little bit cheesy.
Yeah.
And I think they've just gone, we don't need that this year.
I think it'd be nice. I know it is the F1 game, but it'd be nice if they did embrace the F2 stuff a little bit more.
They've got official commentary this year.
Okay.
From, mind you, I'm saying that, they probably had it last year. But it's Alex Jakes and I forget the other guy's name. Always, mainly because I can't usually pronounce his surname. But you've got the official commentary in there. You've got the option of the full seasons. It's the 2019 again, like it was last year. It starts with 2019 and they will update with 2020 later on. There is the option. And the cars are not quite as flighty as last year's. They're a little bit more manageable, because it's going to sound daft, but I found last year the F2 harder to drive than the F1.
Yeah, they were very twitchy.
Yeah,
very twitchy. But yeah, no, it's interesting that you mentioned the handling and stuff, because I know the game being released, I know George Russell got his hands on it, and he was saying how much more realistic it is compared to 2019, and he was really singing its praise of it's a lot more true to life. I think they were saying in 2019 one that it was a bit too tail happy. And you couldn't really push it too much and stuff. Not saying that I'm not spinning out on this one, but I think the one thing that this lockdown and coronavirus and all that's done for games is that the fact they've got the F1 drivers doing it, and I presume they'll go, "Can you give us some feedback? Where can we tweak it and whatnot?" And it's hopefully improving the game. And it might have been a bit too short notice to get it in fully for this one, but 2021. Might be, even better.
Yeah. I would say the handling's definitely different this year. There is a new feature for casual racers. It's called casual mode, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you start your weekend in whatever route you decide to play, it's not limited to particular game modes. It's all over the place. You just hit on the PS4, you just press triangle, and it cycles through standard or casual. And the casual mode hits in a load of assists it adjusts things on the track so that grip is always there, even if you run off onto the grass. It does quite a lot to make it simple so that you can just pick up and play it. What I haven't checked, because I've not actually used it, I'm taking the feedback that Andy gave us yesterday, actually, because we gave him some basic settings that we would potentially use, and he switched out of it. And he switched out of the casual mode and went to it and was absolutely shocked at the difference. But as far as I understand with the casual mode, I think it also supports the braking and the steering. So I think you can actually just press the accelerator and go around the track, which isn't how we're going to play. So I've never actually switched it on to see what it really does. But my understanding is the limits of the track are a lot more forgiving, and you can keep it in a straight line.
Yeah, but although it might not be personally for us, it's nice for people that are F1 fans, because I remember back in the day before I got a wheel and stuff, you go, oh yeah, there's a new F1 game out, and then you just couldn't play it, and you're like, great, I've just wasted 30-40 quid on a game that I can't play. And you either quickly trade it in or sell it to a mate telling him how good it is. But at least with this one, especially with the split screen and different things, they've done a lot of work on it being usable with the controller, as we said at the start, which is great. So if there is anyone listening that's a fan but hasn't got a wheel, or have gone, no, my finger's been burnt badly before, it is a lot more accessible for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's worth hammering home how much work they've done on the controller use. Now, last year's worked well with the controller. There's no doubt in that. But this year's, I would say I've done more with the controller than I have with the wheel, just for ducking in and playing for half an hour or so and coming back out rather than having to set the wheel up all the time. I've been able to do that, and there's definitely more response and feedback in the controller. You can, it kind of sounds odd, but you can feel the grip and you can feel the traction because of the way they've defined the vibration. So you know when it's slipping.
Yeah.
And you know when the traction control is kicking in or when you're going to lose the back end. And it does work very nicely. I've still tweaked it a bit. In fact, arguably, I've tweaked the controller more than I tweaked the wheel settings.
Because out of the box, it works very well.
Yes, it does. So it is, and I say tweak, it really is minor tweaks. It's a couple of dead zones on the accelerator and brake, just so that I can manage the traction a little bit better. And it does work really well. It plays well. And I think I don't know if it's any major overhaul of the engine or what, but it seems a lot smoother. And the screen tearing that you used to get in the cutscenes, you never got it on the track, but you got it in the cutscenes and things. That all seems to have gone, and it feels like a more polished game.
Yeah, whether it's they've had more time on it or what, I don't know. Whether they've got some more people to work on it, but I think some of it could be the popularity as well, because during the lockdown where we haven't had any sport, esports was all you could watch. Unless you were watching reruns and different things. And I think that's helped them kind of get that polish potentially, or focus on it a bit more. If, they're getting so many thousands or millions of views, people watching, famous people drive around and whatnot. And I think it's done, this whole lockdown's done nothing but good things for e-racing. It's not done necessarily good things for some of the racers that flap the gums at the wrong time and get themselves shot in the foot and different things. But I think the feedback and stuff has helped, and it's shown in the game, which is really good. I think since 2017, 18, these games have done nothing but just keep improving.
Yeah, this is the 5th in a row I've reviewed, and it's constantly getting better.
Yeah,
and this one is nigh on perfect for a lot of it. It isn't perfect because there have been some issues at launch. I'm hoping most have been patched out now, but the multiplayer stuff, if you want to race in multiplayer, it works fine for the actual racing. You're all on the grid, it all works to interact, but the timing is off. For some reason, it's like it's not coping with the internet speeds very well, because you can be running in 4th place, but it'll tell you you're in 1st, Or, as I had, you can finish in a decent position and then suddenly drop 8 places with people finishing behind you. You finished physically ahead of them, and yet it's dropping you down the order for no reason. It's no penalties and things like that.
Yeah,
and the lack of penalties is a really interesting one, because the corner cutting stringency, when you've got it on strict, is absolutely bang on. You can't cut a single corner. And in fact, even running a little bit too wide on a straight can invalidate your lap time. But somebody's more than welcome to smash you into the side and spin you off the track and then has nothing done to them. And that's the only bit of any kind of online racing. It's not actually limited to this game. But the online race I don't like. You do get a lot of people who just don't care, don't even want to attempt to play correctly, and it becomes dodgems.
And this is nothing against F1 2020. It's all racing games. The only one is iRacing that I've come across that's different. Most multiplayers are a cesspit unless you're doing a private lobby.
Yeah.
Because people just get some weird kicks. It's mainly kids, but not always, that just get a kick out of smashing you out the way and going the wrong way around the track and different things. And it's got to be one of the hardest things to code, to say you can't do it. But then iRacing have managed it with their license progression, where you have to get out of rookies and then you get into D class and then you get into C class, and it takes a bit of time and effort. But by the time you get up to those, I'm not saying it's always perfect, but it's more, why did you turn in on me on that corner, as opposed to some moron completely cutting a hairpin just to spear you off the track and different things. So
it's got the I forget what it terms them, doesn't it? You do get 2 ratings at the end of each online race, and one of them is your safety rating. So I think when you get to a certain level, it will probably start splitting you in lobbies when there's enough players and everything else. But initial impressions can put you off, because there's one thing, like I say, there's one thing missing a braking point and nudging someone going into a corner. I'm guilty of that myself, but both of us still managing to carry on. And then I've had other ones on straights where they're just deliberately driven into me. Just simply for the reason to knock you off the track, and it's like, that's just not on. And that's when they've been overtaking as well, not the fact that I was ahead. It was a legitimate move. All they had to do was just drive past. So it can put you off, but it does work. That's the thing. It's frustrating as hell, but actually, you get yourself into a private lobby, some friends playing, you can have a really good race because it's solidly there on that front as soon as they fix the timing problems.
And I think the only other issue, which I think's only an Xbox issue, and I don't know if it's been fixed yet, is the other new feature, if you like, which is with the pit points. So there's now a mode, if you like.
It's a podium pass, it's called, and it wasn't active before the review embargoes went up, and it's probably why we're talking about it a bit more than some of the others, because I think a lot of reviews have gone out there without even mentioning it because it just didn't work. They haven't switched it on until the Schumacher Deluxe Edition released. And I don't know why not, actually, because it's like a daily, weekly, monthly challenge mode, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm wondering if they either didn't want press and anyone that was fortunate enough to get an early copy to get a head start on people, or if it was going to be a pain to set it up. So if you do it when the actual game releases, albeit 3 days early, then the timer starts for those events.
I think it might be
like that.
It might also be down to the fact that it's where their currency and monetization comes in as well. So if you've got I think this is actually speculation because I cannot find the wording anywhere to confirm it, but I think if you've got the deluxe editions, you get 15,000 Bitcoins up front, which is actually enough to pay for the VIP section that's in the podium pass. The VIP section is 9,000 Bitcoins. So you in the podium pass, you only pay for cosmetic stuff, and those cosmetics are paid with by Bitcoins, which you can buy if you want to. But that VIP thing just lets you upgrade. Well, it gives you more challenges basically, so that you can rank up your XP faster to go up the tiers, so you can spend more Bitcoins on avatar-based stuff and the odd new livery. It's nothing to do with performance or anything else, but it is an interesting mechanic. You can also pay to upgrade your tiers, You don't have to do the XP. You can spend your pit coins to do that as well.
Yep.
Which I think I did for the first few because one of the tier unlocks was more pit coins. And I ended up coming out, I paid to unlock them all and ended up with more pit coins than I started with, which was quite nice for the beginning stages. But actually, it's the challenge piece that I'm interested in because it gives me a reason to go back.
Yeah, which is always nice. I do like games that give you a reason to keep coming back to a game, because sometimes, like with F1 games and that, although we'll probably just pick it up every now and again anyway. Yeah. But there's not always a need to go back. And I guess Forza was one of the first people that started that with their dailies and weeklies and monthlies, especially in Forza Horizon 4, where you could go and get free cars and different things. So it is nice that that's there. And there is on the Codemasters forum, if you listen to this and you haven't got your coins and you think you're entitled to some, there is a forum post where you can post your gamer tag and your platform, and they'll sort it out for you. Yes. I think it's majority of Xbox One. Don't know what the difference is, but yeah, it's there if you need it.
Yeah, I know. I think I saw that yesterday because I was having a good scan through the forums, and that is nice that they're doing that, and it does seem to work pretty well, pretty prompt for fixing it. But yeah, that daily challenge, going in and doing 3 clean wet laps around a certain track, or going for a lap time, something just to encourage you to go and have 5 or 10 minutes with it. It's not even a lot of effort, is it? It's just you go in and you play it, and it's a tick in a box. And I like that. I always like the Dirt Rally dailies, weeklies. You know, just go on, have a quick go, get a reward for it, move off again. Because sometimes, as good as the game is, sometimes I don't want to sit through 2 hours of practice sessions qualifying in a race.
Yeah, although you can skip them, but yeah,
but you're still forced into that first practice session, and it's a thing I don't like. You can advance, but you have to go to the first practice session to do it. You can't choose to switch your practice off, whereas you can choose to switch qualifying off. I'd actually sometimes, maybe, on your second or third season, when you've got used to the tracks and you're used to the racing, actually, maybe I'd just like to turn practices off altogether and just concentrate on doing the qualifying in a race.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why it's there, but like you say, you have to sometimes commit a lot of time to doing it. And when time is of the essence, or sometimes you just can't be bothered to sit there for 2 hours, and you're just like, oh, but I really fancy playing it. But now, especially with the controller being as good as it is, you can just pick it up, play it, and just do your dailies. And
I've been doing that on lunch times all this week. Grab half an hour. Thought, right, all right, I'll boot it up, out of rest mode. Quick challenge. Usually a time trial event as well, which is good. And then back out again. Time trial leaderboards are one thing that haven't been working. I think they were supposed to have been fixed yesterday, because they were working fine to begin with. Then they patched it and broke a load of things. Then they patched it and fixed them all again. But yeah, so it is an encouraging piece to do. And I think also when I was starting to look through the, I say monthly, it's not. I think it's like a 2 months that they run for. There's a lot of stuff in there about doing things in career mode and in my team. So it also encourages you to go back to those and to pick up. And it encouraged me to start the career off properly, because I'd spent all my time with my team and designing my car and everything else. And then I thought, well, I may as well go see what the career mode has to offer, and probably done about half a season of that as well, because the career mode's the same principle in its F2 into, or I did a feeder F2 into F1, and a lot of the structure is the same as my team, but there's more things at the forefront, like driver perks, which you can buy that have benefits that you can take with you between teams, and much more of a focus on you being an integral part of the current season. It works really well. Would I only ever stick in career? Probably not. I think I'll still spend most of my time in the my team element, running my own team.
I haven't really gone into the career. It's just always been my team, because it's an achievement to get your car from, not only your car and you, it's getting your whole team there and getting to the front of the grid and doing all the bits and bobs and press events and juggling your money. And I love those kind of games anyway.
It works
I'm a
well,
sucker for 'em.
and it never gives you enough, but it's not stingy either. Especially when you start to open up the extra sponsor slots and you've got more weekly income. I like this time that the resource points generate each week as well.
Yes.
So you don't just earn them for doing the practice sessions. They're like bonus points. You do get a steady income, which is nice because it means it feels like you're developing your cars a little bit faster. And yeah, it's structured really nicely. If you don't want to do any of that, you can just go and do a Grand Prix weekend. Pick one from the current season or from about 6 different series. Because you can obviously do an F2 one, but you can do historics, you can do special events. There's actually quite a lot under the Grand Prix. When you go and look at it, you might think, oh yeah, it's just a Grand Prix weekend. No, there's a load of stuff in there that sits outside the current F1 2020 championship. Then there's your invitationals again, they're back. Like your challenges, they crop up in career mode and in my team anyway as part of your sort of calendar of events. But you can go off and do them if you fancy doing like an overtake challenge or hot laps, or there is a surprising amount for you to sit and, well, if you never want to play with anyone online, there's tons to do.
Yeah.
You've got a year's worth of game here. Easy.
Yeah. And if you do want to race online, there are the events or seasons or whatever you call them where you can join your mates and all have a race and different things. And I guess that's the only disappointment at the minute, whether it's something they patch in or not, is it's not crossplay.
No,
And
that's what's missing for us.
for some reason, I don't know why, but racing games seem to be behind the times with crossplay, because other games are starting to get there, and especially like your first-person shooters and stuff, which I thought would be the hardest market to break because of, you know, frame rates and not being able to shoot someone and all that. For some reason, racing games aren't there yet.
No, it's a bit odd, isn't it? Because the league mode is your team, is your mates one, and it's really quite comprehensive. You can set up any of the tracks that they've got in there. You can set up any of the rules for the season. It's really flexible on how you all want to play. And you can set it as either a fixed time event on your own frequency schedule. So if you've got guys that you know, all of you can get together and play, I don't know, 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night and 9 o'clock on a Friday night, you can set that up. And then everybody turns up, lobby's there to go, off you go. Or you can just make it ad hoc. So one of the admins joins and kicks everything off when everybody's there. Yeah. And that's quite nice that you're able to do that. You're able to save after each session. So if you can only do practice and qualifying and you run out of time, you can stop it and you can pick it back up later on as a group. People can drop in and drop out. You're not fixed from the beginning with everybody that's in the league. It's really nice. We're going to actually run one across the Codec Moments team, like a bit like we've been doing with the Dirt Rally Club. We're going to do it with F1. We haven't worked out the frequency yet or the start date, but yeah, it's definitely one that we're going to crack on with. But yeah, so the league stuff, I'm quite looking forward to getting going because I've really enjoyed the stuff we've done in the past as like the online championships, and I think this is just a more flexible way of doing that with more people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if people are interested and they've got it on PC or Xbox, I will look at setting up a league on there as well. Like I say, unfortunately, it's not cross. Or maybe we can even set up a hot lap challenge or something like that. But if people are interested, just go on our Discord or drop us a tweet, and we'll see what we can set up. Yeah.
So the question I've got for you then is, how are you finding your special F1 wheel?
Well, yeah, it's always good. Unfortunately, I don't know if I said this when I gave a little bit of a review on it. So the texture on it, like this rubbery plastic kind of, there's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called, and it's horrendous. So I've been using my wheel quite a lot in lockdown, and I have to wear gloves. And I know people get ridiculed. Oh, look, you're sim racer, they're wearing gloves and that. But if you're doing a long race, like I did 2 hours around Spa last Friday, and you will just get sore hands.
Yeah.
Simple,
is it 3D printed?
No.
Your wheel, or is it?
No, I'll have to get the name of it. There's a certain name of the stuff they've put on where you hold the wheel. And it's just horrible on your hands.
I sent you some links to now because I'm looking at trying to get a replacement wheel for my steering wheel, but it's harder for me to do, it seems, than you. The Logitech ones are not exactly, they're not designed to be easily changed, but they can be. And I started looking, I found a place that actually does them, a hell of a waiting list. It might be about 3 years before I get around to one. But they actually wrap the handles in goatskin, like a goatskin suede type thing. And I thought, it's adding about 20 quid worth of extra cost, but then you've said that about not having any covering. I'm thinking, it might be worth it.
Well, it's got a covering on it. I'll have to get the actual name of what it is on it, but it just gives you blisters and like makes your hand really sore. So you have to wear gloves. But yeah, it's good. I'll be getting it on the PC as well, purely because my actual rim is a official Thrustmaster one.
Yeah.
So it just slots in and off you go. And it's got something like, 14, 16 buttons on it. And unfortunately, on the Xbox, it only picks up the same amount of buttons that are on a gamepad, which is a bit annoying. So I can't, like, some of the buttons will do the same thing. Whereas on a PC, the Thrustmaster software will say it's in F1 mode for the F1 Ferrari rim I've got. And I can just completely do everything. So it's got 2 rotors on it, or rotating switches.
Yeah.
So I can use that to go up and down on brake bias, differential, use it for my DRS, and it's got loads of buttons and stuff on it. So if I'm playing iRacing, I've got a button so I can speak to people and tear strips on your visor and stuff like that. So it's really good, and it gives you that authentic feel. But unfortunately, with the Xbox not recognising every single button, it's a bit of a pain. But it didn't do it on the other one either. I think it's just something with the Xbox. I don't know.
It could be. There is something a bit weird with this version. I haven't gone back to check since the latest patch, but I noticed the G29 usually has some great support for the extra buttons it's got. And this is the first one where it's not in by default. So it knows what steering wheel it is. It just doesn't add, because there's like a jog wheel and some adjustment buttons and selects for you getting into the on-screen display stuff, so you can change those biases and everything. I had to set those up in the actual default configuration because it's not there automatically, which is odd because it is in every other F1 game prior to this that's being supported for that wheel. So it is a bit odd, and I wonder if maybe they still need a little bit of a tweak on wheel settings.
Maybe.
Not that I'm saying it's going to suddenly enable all your extra buttons, but you never know. It may come in the future.
Maybe. But yeah, no, it's always nice to race with the wheel. And as we were discussing before, there's not a lot of changes you have to make to it.
No.
It's more how you feel, whether you want it to be. Some people like quite a limp wheel, whereas I like to fight with it a little bit. I like that resistance.
Yeah.
Because if not, I won't know when I'm gone beyond the point of grip. But that's just, me.
So last week I think it was actually the Dutch Grand Prix last Friday night. Went through all of that practice sessions a lot. And then I finished that and went on to do the Dirt Rally stream with Andy.
Yep.
And smashed the car up in the first 3 corners because it just had no grip. When you're thinking this is like driving on ice. It was unbelievable, and you forget how much grip there is in the F1 games and how that transmits through the wheel. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, the fact that you're going flat out round some corners and you're like, no, surely not. And it just chews up the track. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you go to something else and you're like, whoa, this is like driving on ice.
Yeah, I can't get round that corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. And whilst it is brilliantly playable with a pad, it's a different experience on a wheel as well. So if you are lucky enough to do it, we'd highly recommend it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
It's a belting game. It is
Yep.
the best iteration of an F1 game I've ever played.
Yeah, it's only going to get better as well with patches and whatnot.
Yeah, it's got some niggles, it's got some faults. The bloody communicating with online server message. I don't know how that is on the Xbox. Pretty much every time you do something, it has to connect to the server. And I had it last night where the patch was downloading, so there's no online in the game because it needs the patch first before it will connect. So it would come up with that message and fill the entire screen, and then it would say, can't connect to server, retry or cancel. Well, cancel, because, I know it's not going to connect because I'm not connected. So it would then retry to connect because I cancelled it. whether you hit retry or cancel, I had to quit out of the game. I had to quit out of the game and wait. I couldn't do anything with it. And then it pops up in the top left-hand corner constantly during online. If you're in a multiplayer race, it will pop up for about 10 seconds and flash at you and disappear, and it's really distracting.
All right. I can't say I've noticed it.
Yeah. And then, because it's popping up in the corner, if you ever decide you do want to use the photo mode, which is quite good, all your photos have got communicating with online server in the top left-hand corner, because it doesn't take it off. There are some really stupid things like that in there that do not affect the gameplay at all, but need cleaning up. And that's the only reason I docked it like 0.2 of a score.
0.2.
I did have it as a 10 initially, 10 out of 10. And then I kind of written my second to last paragraph and gone, I can't give it a 10 when I said all that about it. No, they do need something to work on. But no, it's the best one by far. But absolutely the best one by far. And it's almost, I like the fact it's out when it is before the season's really got underway, because you're not really biased to selecting a team or anything, because you don't know how they're going to perform. And the option's there that all the cars have the same performance again.
And so apart from some of the tracks, you can race along as well.
Yes. Not all of them, disappointingly. It's such an odd season this year that I half hope we get DLC for some of the extra tracks, but I very much doubt we're going to get scans of them to actually implement them in the game.
I doubt it.
No, I doubt it as well. But that feels like the only place they can go with this series, because the Schumacher content. Now I am a bit disappointed with this. The likeness is good, the cars and the liveries and clothing is great, but there's nothing that really says, well, this is a Schumacher edition. There are no challenges. There's no game mode to pit yourself against him. Like with Colin McRae, there is a Colin McRae set of challenges where you have to try and beat what the man did. I would have at least expected, in whatever year Schumacher did this, can you replicate it? That kind of thing.
I thought that happened in the previous DLCs where you had like
Senna and Prost did it with last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for them to go, these are the iconic racers in these iconic cars.
Yeah.
And, can you beat it? And so especially, maybe the odd race where he's like Jenson Button. If they ever did a Jenson Button edition, you can guarantee that one of the races, well, it should be one of the races, is Canada.
Yeah, you're starting at the back in the wet. You have to win.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, you've pitted 15 times or whatever, how many times you pitted or whatever. That is disappointing. Like you say, it's just Schumacher edition, which basically means you've got his likeness, his overalls, his helmet, his cars.
Yeah. And it's an extra 10 quid for that. Which, if you want a bit of cosmetic stuff, it's good. It's probably worth it for driving the cars, because there's a surprising amount of fun to be had going back into some of the vehicles. I've done some of the invitationals in the Brawn and the Renault that were in last year's, and they are actually, some of them are great to drive. I've done one in one of the old McLarens, and I didn't even put my foot down full in that, because I just couldn't keep it in a straight line. They are an experience to go and do it, but I would have liked something like, in the race in France where he pitted 4 times and still won by some ridiculous margin. Can you put in the lap time to match that? That kind of stuff. And there isn't anything there. And I am disappointed in that. I thought they would have made more of it, given he is such an icon of the sport. Yeah. Arguably the biggest icon at the moment. He probably will get overtaken by Hamilton in a couple of years.
Yeah, at some point, yeah. But like you say, he's the biggest icon in the sport at the moment. So why not make a spectacle of it if you're putting him on the front cover? Yeah. Surely that's the idea, but... Yeah,
but it's nice to have some extra content, some more cars, and the tracks are the only thing I think they can go with, putting in classic Grand Prix tracks in the next edition, because it's quite difficult to do anything with the actual sport itself. It wasn't Codemasters, was it? It was one of the previous companies put the safety car in as a bonus feature once.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I remember thinking really excited. Oh yeah, you could drive the safety car. It was so slow.
Yeah, it is when you're on something like that, yeah.
I know it's a fast car, but it's so slow in that kind of game.
Yeah.
No, cracking game, really good. Definite one for enthusiasts. Casual gamers is the big thing that would, it should be promoting even more this year. It is easy to play. It's easy to pick up and get into, and there's a ton of features. And yeah, we've moaned a little bit about the online, but actually there can be a lot of fun. If it's only a couple of people, the races tend to be really good. And the competitiveness is there, but when you've got other racers who are respectful of the racing that you were trying to emulate, and you're trying to do the same, it can be a lot of fun. It can be quite tense and really challenging. I mean, there are some very fast people out there.
Oh yes, yeah, there is. Yeah, there are some aliens out there.
Yeah, I've attempted to do quite a few laps around Austria, just to see how I compare with the current drivers, seeing as they're going around the tracks at the moment.
Yep,
their jobs are safe.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is there'll be some people out there that can outperform them. They'll be going quicker than them, and it's. Yeah, no, you're right, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, that about does it for this episode. Don't forget you can see us on Twitter at Codec Moments, where Matt will give you a lovely response. And
If
there's
I
the
respond.
website.
Depends how nice your message is in the first place.
No. The worse the message, the more likely you are to respond.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Don't forget to go to codecmoments.com, where you can read Matt's review and review of other games and all the lovely things that are coming up, because we're getting to that kind of silly time of gaming where we're going to start getting new consoles and more games and different things.
Yeah, catch our podcasts on... Well, I say podcasts. We'll go catch the podcast on the PS5 and stay tuned for a podcast on the Series X as well.
Yes, I think that is the 29th of July.
Is it 23rd is the showcase?
Could be.
But yes,
the
podcast might be the 29th.
Yeah.
That's that could be of 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be one.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to do another episode on that. Check out my YouTube channel. You just search for Cornwolf in YouTube and you'll see some setup videos and whatnot for F1 and other things that I do. And until next time, it's bye-bye from me.
And bye from me as well. Take care.